So there's so many people that I get DMs and they say like, is it worth it to jump into storage now? Or, oh, is it too late? There's self-storage everywhere. Like, have I actually missed the boat? And so I always say like the best time to jump into storage is right now, right? It's when you actually find it. And so I could say very much myself that I got into storage 2021, right? Where a lot of people were jumping in prior to that. And so I'm so glad I did, because as soon as you get in, you're learning, you're taking the reps of understanding commercial real estate. And the people who actually get in and start taking the reps, underwriting deals and submitting offers are going to buy their facility 10 times faster. So I want to give an example. So we had a student who is a firefighter. He is 45 years old. He jumped into the school and he was relentless. Like, he was very much like, Brie, I'm going to buy a storage facility. And I'm like, yes, absolutely, right? Within 2 months, this gentleman like found a storage owner. He cold called every single week. On his 5th call, he called the owner and he's like, hey, would you consider an offer? And the owner's like, yes. He said he froze because he's like, oh gosh, what do I say now? But this is perfect. That's what I want my students to do. Is they don't need to know steps A through Z. They need to know A and B, and then go bring back C, D, and all these other ones. And they're all going to line up because you have someone, you have a coach in the corner that's only 5 places above you. And so I always say, people are like, well, is it worth it? Yes, absolutely. Is it worth it to go out there and to learn these skill sets? And so this gentleman, 45 years old, got to tell his wife and his kids that he's finally financially free and that they're on the right path to financial freedom. And so this facility not only will give him cash flow every single month, it actually is going to double in value within 3 to 5 years. And so this gentleman bought 2 facilities for $600,000, and he put $25K in of his own money, and he got $100K from a captain in his station. And so what this is going to do is it will actually be worth about $842,000 in the next 4 years. And so is that worth it? Absolutely. I always say like 1 to 2 storage facilities can absolutely change your life.
What mindset do you need to have to get into self-storage?
So I always say, like, coming in commercial real estate, it's going to take grit. The 1% get to leverage larger asset classes in self-storage, in commercial and industrial. And so what that, I always say, grit looks like is learning and being able to stay focused, not wave the path when things get hard, right? There is a lot of jumps that you're going to have to go through in order to not only find your first facility, fund it, and then actually go in there and close it and then operate it afterwards. And so it's really important to understand and be a good investor, and then also to be known as like, hey, there is always going to be hardships in business, and then how do you create an opportunity to make it easier? And so the skill set I really think that helps people, that differentiate from people who actually buy storage and people who do not buy storage, is they understand like, what is their big why, right? Like, instant gratification is everywhere in our society. Amazon shows up, within 24 hours with what I need. We are constantly, reaping benefits and getting instant gratification. And so in residential real estate, for example, you can close a home within 15 to 30 days. In commercial real estate and self-storage, it can take you 90 days to close this facility. And so it really does take time. And the people who are saying, hey, I would rather juice and understand juicing a lemon to get lemonade, are going to be the ones that actually reap the benefits, because it's skill sets that they add up along the way that helps them buy their first facility, which is sometimes can be the hardest, and then they're going to go do it again. And so it really is, people say life is about the journey, and that is very true. And it's very much, I always say, the self-storage way is that we are adding skill sets. It's sometimes not always about buying the storage facility, but it's about becoming a good leader, and it's about becoming a good business owner.
Let's talk about, I guess, the timeline for self-storage school. Like,
yeah,
when you, like, from the beginning when you started self-storage till now, how much have you grown? What have you seen with your students? And why do you still continue to do what you do today?
Starting self-storage school actually kind of came by accident, really. So when I got into self-storage, I was like talking to owners, I was negotiating, I was sending mailers, I had my deal analyzers. And so really, self-storage, there wasn't a lot of education when I started, and it wasn't very good. And so people kept coming to me and being like, Brie, You know, how did you negotiate a $3 million deal, seller financing with 0% interest? Or, hey, Bree, can I use your deal analyzer? Or, hey, how are you looking at this market? And so finally, because of that, self-storage school started, because I was like, hey, well, why not, if people are finding deals, if we're analyzing them together, if we're growing as a team, being able to find and buy deals, like that's a community that is stronger than well. And so self-storage school really came out of a need of wanting a community of students and also people where we can find deals together, we can partner together, and then we can grow. Especially as I start to kind of add to my portfolio, I'm in the trenches. I always tell my students, like, the differentiation is go find someone who's only 5 places above you, insert yourself, and then ask the right questions, right? And now your new standard is those 5 people that you surround yourself by. And it's only a matter of time before you buy your first facility and then you become a leader and a business owner.
What are the benefits of owning a self-storage business?
I always like to say you have to start with a why. People are like, well, what's your goals and what's your why? And it really comes down to, like, how do you want to reverse engineer your life? So I owned a gym. I worked 70 hours a week. I worked on the off hours where people were coming back from their W-2, and it was so hard. I created my own busy business pretty much. And I was like, I'm never going to do my gym business again. And so self-storage was very, very intentional. And it was because of one reason. It was, how can I own a business where I can remotely work, from my home to be with my daughter? How can I have slow mornings with her, and how can I actually pick her up at school and be present? And so from that, I was able to reverse engineer. And so self-storage is very simple. It's a simple business, right? We rent space. No toilets, no tenants, no employees, less issues and more cash flow. And it's so true. You can scale with self-storage. And so the goal here is to own 15 to 20 self-storage facilities in the next 5 to 6 years. And so you can do that from anywhere in the world. And I think that is what makes it so incredible, is that it's not like a hotel. It's not like an Airbnb where you have tenants coming in and they're constantly rotating. You have to clean sheets, you have to do customer service and hospitality, and you have to have really good reviews and all these crazy things, right? We have some of that because it's still a business. But in self-storage, it's like literally you rent out that space. They're in charge of sweeping it and keeping it clean and go dropping the lock off. And that's it. We don't even need to have an employee there present for a rental to actually rent out.
Tell us about the fun side of self-storage.
I think a big piece in owning business is understanding what do you want your life to look like? And so reverse engineering it. I'm so excited about this. It's I call my daughter the storage baby because she really changed my life. The joke in the family was is the storage facility going to come first, or is the baby going to come first? And the storage facility came first, and then 6 weeks later I gave birth. So it was very much happened very, very fast. But with this, I've been wanting to, I always say, my big why is being an example of what's possible for my daughter and showing her that you can not only own a business, but you can also be a present mom, you can be a present family member, and you get to have it all. So one of the biggest things I'm excited to do is take my daughter. I want to have teacher summers. I want to take 6 to 8 weeks off in the summer so that we can travel to all 50 states before she turns 18. And so going in RVs and, traveling and taking her to the state parks or to the colleges and having that diversity so that she knows what this world looks like as she takes her step out into being 18 and finding her own way. How do I say this? I don't think balance actually exists. There are seasons where you work hard, and then there are seasons where you are very intentional with your time. And so this is something that I want to install in my daughter, is that, you still have this grit to work hard, and you're going to have a season of working hard, but you also want to have that diversity where you get to lay off the brakes because you put the work in the forefront of that time. So I'm really excited to have teacher summers with her. We went to Wyoming last year for about 4 weeks and got to visit my dad, and we rode horses and hiked and took the ATV out, and of course they do a lot of hunting out there, so shooting. And so these are things that I want her to experience.
Go back 5 years ago, the knowledge you know now, what would you say to yourself in the next 5 minutes, the next 3 minutes? What would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself, like, if I went back 5 years later and was like, hey, Brie, you can do X, I would say betting on yourself. And so that was something that I fully did. Like I put all my eggs in one basket. And there's a great book called The One Thing by Gary Keller. If you haven't read it, please read it. But my one thing was buy a storage facility. And I literally had like blockers on my eyes, like no shiny objects, just self-storage. But the things that I learned through that was just incredible. I found my two incredible business partners, bought our facility in the worst time possible when the market was increasing, like interest rates 2%. We were on an SBA bridge loan to an SBA product to buy our first facility. And it took us about 11 months to finally buy our facility. So I would say there is going to be many hoops, but making sure if you are partnering with the right people is really, really important. And then always, putting yourself and being able to ask really good questions. And then the third thing would be making sure that you're nourishing relationships before you need it. So it's like pouring your well, right? I think before you need it. And that's very, very true. It's planting seeds along the way, because you never know who has money and wants to invest in storage, or you never know who owns storage and is like, hey, I have a deal. And so I would say those are the three things that I wish I would have told myself. And I would have known, I'm like, okay, yeah, I have my back, and I know I'm going to buy a storage facility and continue to do that over and over again.
Is self-storage getting into that one of those hard things?
Yes. Yeah, it's skill sets. It's built up skill sets to position yourself to buy your first facility. And once you buy that first facility, you understand so much more. Like the first facility, I always say, is the hardest, and it's the deal that you're going to remember the most. And once you buy that first one, because you just don't know, it's just like giving birth to a kid or becoming a parent for the first time. Like you don't know what you don't know. And that like anticipation makes people very nervous. And so once you buy that facility, you have now a better understanding, just like a second kid. It's going to be so much easier, right? And faster. And so I always say, like, making sure there's two things, like to find a good mentor and coach, and it's worth its weight in gold, because you get to ask really good questions. You get to learn from them and the risks to avoid. And the third thing is, like, those are the people that normally have better lenders and bank people that they have as referrals, and they can really help you pull strings when, or go to bat for you when you really need it. The second thing that I would say is, being able to be relentless. And in order to close any type of real estate deal, houses, self-storage, you're going to jump through a lot of hoops, and being able to be persistent and be like, wow, I don't know what I don't know, and it's going to be hard, but I'm going to figure it out anyways. And so one of my favorite sayings is it's always figure outable. I can't remember the person that quotes that, but she's incredible. And I always say it is always figure outable. Like it's something, if it's actually meant to be, you need to go towards that, right? You need to, even though it's uncomfortable inside, that means that it is worth pursuing. And so I think that's the two important pieces in order to become a good self-storage investor, a good real estate investor, is to get those two skill sets and to double down with those. So I get this question all the time, is like, how much time does owning a self-storage take, like each week? And I think this is an incredible question, because so many people are scared to buy themselves another job. And so self-storage, I always like to say there is a 3-part framework that I teach in the self-storage school. And so there's 3 different ways that you can run a self-storage facility. And so number 1, it's do it yourself. So it's a DIY. You are the one taking the calls. You are the one that are actually like helping doing the auctions. You're doing it all, right? And so that can very much take about like 8 to 10 hours a week if you're doing everything yourselves and you're picking up those calls. The second framework is you can do a hybrid management approach. And so what this looks like is that you're now removed, but you have someone that's doing a call center. You have a call center that's taking the calls and doing the sales because they're an expert in that. And then the other part to it is you have a boots on the ground that works 10 to 15 hours every single week for you. And so this is how we run a few of our facilities, is the hybrid approach. And when you do that, you are still managing those 2 people. And so it would take about 3 to 5 hours a week for the hybrid approach, okay? And then the third approach is if you're like, hey, I have a facility that's over 35,000 square feet, so it's a little bit larger, you have the opportunity to hire a third-party management. And so this is actually a great, idea and system. When you're able to buy a bigger facility, then you can spend more time actually finding deals while the other person, the third party, manages it. You still, though, when you have a third party, you have to manage them and always know your KPIs, because you never want to become an absentee owner. We actually have one facility that is over 400 units, and we have a third party, and we are very happy with them. But every single 2 weeks, we jump on calls and we make sure that the KPIs and everything matches up with the bookkeeping. So I just wanted to show you guys there is 3 ways. There's a 3-part storage framework and how you can go about operating your first facility. And it's all up to you. As long as you actually have good systems and you have a good tech stack with your website and your call center and all these different items, it gets to be very, very easy.
How's the integration with AI and self-storage going to evolve in 2026?
So I'm really excited about AI. I think a lot of people are nervous about it because they think it's going to take away their jobs. But as a business owner in self-storage, I'm actually really excited about it, because for us as a business owner, we always are looking at how do we actually increase revenue every single month and how do we decrease our expenses. And so AI is actually going to come in and help business owners decrease expenses. And so a couple things that we are doing right now, and I'm excited to look at the progress of, is we actually have an AI bot in our CRM, which when people come to rent units from us, the AI bot will pop up and say, hey, what unit do you need? Like, how much stuff do you have? And it actually will walk them through to pick the perfect unit for them. And then the other way that we have AI being implemented in our system is anything in the call center. When we get calls from tenants, it actually records the calls and transcribes it and then sends feedback with keywords to the owners. And then it also sends keywords about how they can improve their sales calls and if there's any leaks within the sales system. And so what's great about this is that we actually had we had someone living in one of our storage units. And so how we found out that there was a person living in one of our storage units was from this AI product saying there was 3 customers that were unhappy because of someone living in the unit next door. And so we were able to, take care of that. So there's going to be many benefits in self-storage with AI, with sales, with being able to rent more units. And then also number 3, being able to understand what's going on at our facilities when people call in. So a lot of people always ask me, like, why are self-storage owners selling their facility if they are cash cows, right? And so what's going on right now where I see is that there's 68% of self-storage owners are mom and pop, which means that maybe they own 1 to 2 facilities and they're not institutional. And this is very different than in multifamily. Multifamily, there's about 12% that are still mom and pop. So we have a huge opportunity in the self-storage world right now. And so what we're seeing, especially on off-market self-storage calls with owners, is that owners are raising their hand and they're saying, hey, I want to retire, right? I want to sell my business. I want to move on to something else better. And so we're seeing this all the time right now, especially with life happening. So we had one scenario where sadly, and we called a storage owner in Washington, and he's like, hey, I want to own this property forever. I just built it. And then I called him back 2 months later to follow up. And he was like, hey, Bree, actually, I had a stroke about 6 weeks ago and I'm doing better, but he's like, it really, has shaken me up. And I'm thinking I want to take advantage of my life and wanting to go and travel and do all these things. And so, you're calling at the right time to build these relationships up. And so I always like to say, it's not about just, finding value add facilities that aren't very good. It's about solving people's problems. And a lot of people will raise their hand saying, hey, I want to move on. If you're interested in joining Storage School, it is open right now for enrollment. DM me the word school. I'll send you the application and we'll see if it's a good fit.